In total there are about 80 to 90 species of lobsters contained in more than 15 different genera. The category lobster comprises 4 main commercial species: 1. European lobster, 2. American lobster, 3. Rock lobster and 4. Tropical or spiny lobster. European lobster. American lobster. Rock lobster. Tropical or spiny lobster. Lobsters can only mate after the female molts. Before that stage, the female releases pheromones, chemicals, into the water to let nearby males know she is preparing to molt and mate. Males will fight for the female, and the lobster that wins the fight will take the female into his cave and protect her from predators. Once she has shed her hard exoskeleton, the male gently turns her over and pierces her abdomen with his first pair of pleopods. He deposits sperm packets into her sperm receptacles. These she will store for up to 15 months before she releases eggs. When the female judges the time is right, she releases the eggs, which pass by the seminal receptacle and are fertilized with the stored sperm. The female then attaches the eggs, all 5,000 plus of them. Some older females will carry 100,000 under her tail with a glue-like substance, where they will stay for the next 10 to 11 months. During this time, she is called a buried lobster because the eggs look like small berries. The female lobster carries the eggs inside for 9 to 12 months. And then for another 9 to 12 months attached to the swimmerets under her tail. When the eggs hatch, the larvae will float near the surface for 4 to 6 weeks. The few that survive will settle to the bottom and continue to develop as baby lobsters. The female can store the sperm for several months, waiting for the egg-laying season, which typically occurs during July and August. Females breed every 2 years. Female lobsters carry their eggs, known as berries, beneath their abdomen, attached to structures called spinnerets. Female lobsters with eggs, called buried hens, are kept in individual tanks until the eggs hatch. It can take many months for the black eggs the female carries to hatch in the wild, with sea temperature being the main factor. A hatchery can speed up or slow down this hatching, heating or cooling the water to manage the supply of larvae. Their eggs have naturally ripened, typically between May and October. Eggs close to hatching change to a brown or red color from a darker black. The female lobster will help the larvae to hatch by pointing and fanning her tail, which helps shake off the larvae that ready. This is normally done at dawn and dusk over a few days until all of the eggs have hatched. The hatched larvae are collected each morning and transferred and counted in the larvae pods in production container. The tiny lobster larvae are kept in a constantly moving gentle flow of water and fed plankton and a specially formulated diet as they grow. The movement of the water helps keeps the larvae suspended, and reduces the risk of the larvae settling out on the bottom and fighting. In the wild, the larvae would be floating in the top few feet of the ocean where they hatched. As lobsters grow, they shed their skin, progressing through each stage until the fall molt, where they are identifiable as a miniature lobster. After their molt, they are known as juveniles, are separated into individual cells and transferred to aquahive tanks. Rear juvenile lobsters in aquahive. The juvenile lobsters now begin their benthic lifestyle, living on the sea floor, and can be very aggressive towards each other, so in the hatchery they are kept in individual cells within the aquahive. They grow rapidly and will molt every few days until they are a size suitable for release. The timing for release is dependent upon tides, staffing, volunteers and weather, as well as the temperature within the hatchery, which is controlled by the hatchery technician. But it is most likely that juvenile lobsters will be about 8 weeks old when they are released into the sea. This is done straight from their individual cells, after they have been acclimatized to sea temperature. These small larvae will molt 4 times before they start to show any resemblance to an adult lobster. Then another 20 times over 6 to 8 years before reaching the legal size for harvesting. Before molting, lobsters reduce the size of their extremities by drawing water from them, so their old shell isn't too tight. Then the shell breaks between the tail and the body, called the carapace. Lobsters will flex their bodies back and forth and eventually back out of their old shell. Without its shell, a lobster is soft and squishy. Lobsters that have just molted are called jellies. During the molting and post-molt period, it is vital for lobsters to stay hidden because they are unable to protect themselves when they lack a hard exoskeleton. Sometimes lobsters will eat their old shells to obtain more calcium, speeding up the hardening of their new shell. Within the first 5 to 7 years of its life, approximately the time it takes to weigh a pound. A lobster may shed its shell up to 25 times, however, as the lobster gets bigger, the number of molting events decreases. Adult lobsters only molt about once a year to once every 2 years. Because lobsters molt, they can regenerate lost limbs. Each time a new molt is formed, the regenerating limb looks more like the original. Lobsters can even regenerate their eyes and antennae. The large Homarus lobsters are caught almost exclusively with lobster pots, also called lobster traps. These are large rigid objects which the lobster enters voluntarily, often to reach bait, and which it then cannot escape. Traps are also used in some spiny lobster fisheries, such as the fishery for the California spiny lobster, Panulirus interruptus, in the eastern Pacific Ocean. Lobster traps can either be wire or wooden. Today fishermen are straying from the wooden traps as they can be heavier than the wire. Traditionally, a lobster trap has two compartments. The outside, or kitchen, has nylon netting leading inside the trap to the parlor, where the lobsters are caught. Lobsters are widely fished around the world for their meat. They are often hard to catch in large numbers, but their large size can make them a profitable catch. Although the majority of the targeted species are tropical, the majority of the global catch is in temperate waters. Lobsters are harvested year-round. However, the majority are caught between late June and late December, when the lobsters are the most active. Lobsters are also harvested during the winter and early spring months, but in smaller quantities. Legal restrictions apply to the catching of lobsters in many parts of the world, in order to prevent overfishing and allow recruitment to the next generation. Common restrictions include the provision of a minimum landing size, preventing fishermen from catching buried females, females carrying eggs, closed seasons, and limiting catches with individual fishing quotas. To measure a rock lobster, spread the antennal horns, place the gauge tip hard into the middle notch. Measure from the notch to the end of the carapace. If you are taking rock lobster close to minimum size, be sure your measuring device is accurate. The lobster is measured from the back of the eye socket to the end of its carapace. This should measure no less than 87 millimeters. It is illegal to take female rock lobster in berry or strip the eggs. If you catch a lobster in berry, return it to the water as soon as possible. Sexing rock lobster. Female rock lobster have large, overlapping pleopods, swimmerets flaps, under the tail, and have a small nipper claw is present on the end of each rear leg. Male rock lobster have small swimmerets under the tail and have no nipper claws on the rear legs. Lobster dealers cope with seasonal changes in supply with lobster pounds, or other live holding systems in which hard-shell lobsters can be maintained in peak condition for up to 6 months. The transportation of live lobster can cause stress and physical damage to the animals, as well as considerable variation in product quality at its destination. Factors likely to cause stress include changes in temperature due to inadequate cooling in warm climates, insufficient warmth in cold climates, low humidity, low oxygen, overcrowding, and rough handling. In addition, because lobsters are solitary animals and naturally defend their habitat, they can experience stress when placed in communal settings. The most common method of shipment for live lobsters is in fiberboard boxes lined with expanded polystyrene. An absorbent pad should be placed in the bottom of the box, and the lobster can be cushioned and separated from its neighbors with moist paper, chilled wet sponges or gel packs. A number of shippers still use seaweed, but some algal species produce noxious gases as they break down, which can harm the lobsters. Lobsters can be kept alive, out of water, in a high humidity environment for approximately 24 hours. Once the transport time increases beyond 24 hours, mortality increases significantly, and beyond 48 hours, losses can be considerable. It is therefore imperative that a good relationship is built with the transport company to ensure minimal delays only between the packing and the arrival of the lobster at its destination. It is important to ensure that all relevant paperwork including export and health certificates are correctly filled in, since products shipped interstate and inter-country are highly likely to be held over by veterinary inspectors if paperwork is incomplete. Lobster is an important trade item and one of the most expensive fishery products entering international trade. The average unit value is $20 per kilogram, compared to around $10 per kilogram for shrimp and below $5 per kilogram of finfish. World trade in lobster grew substantially, from 110,000 tons in 2001 to over 170,000 tons in 2014. Total lobster trade in 2014 was valued at $3.3 billion, almost double that of 13 years earlier. According to Global Trade Information System (GTIS), world quantity of lobster imports in 2014. The United States of America was the most important importer of lobster, 61,000 tons equals $1,294.2 million United States dollars. Followed by Canada, 32,500 tons equals $334.5 million United States dollars, and China, 17,800 tons equals $576.7 million United States dollars. France 8,696 tons equals $181.1 million United States dollars. Hong Kong 8,020 tons equals $138.7 million United States dollars. Spain 6,193 tons equals $104.5 million United States dollars. Italy 5,279 tons equals $85.2 million United States dollars. Japan 4,389 tons equals $94.2 million United States dollars. Belgium 4,106 tons equals $85.2 million United States dollars. When observing the development of the unit value of lobster trade, it comes evident that prices slowed down in the United States of America and France after the market disruption during the economic crisis in 2008 to 2009. In contrast, China's imports of lobster showed a strong increase both in volume, from 1,700 tons in 2001 to 17,000 tons in 2014, and in unit value, which is currently at 33 United States dollars per kilogram, compared to around 2 United States dollars per kilogram in the early 2000s. This indicates that China is now an important market for high-value lobster for domestic consumption, and no longer for the reprocessing industry only.